What's up? Put it in here at the beginning. All right. Let's see here. Decisions. So, tonight I'm going to be reading from Noon Annual. This is published out of New York City. Features a lot of my favorite contemporary short story writers. Almost without exception, you'll find new work from Christine Scott, Nathan Dragon, Lucy Elvin, Catherine Scanlon's in there a lot, Lydia Davis, a whole slew of amazing authors. Greg Mulcahy pops up in there. He's not in the latest issue, though. Mark Tweed, Susan Lair, Caleb Blatchley. It's just, it's a veritable smorgasbord of great, weird, generally very short fiction. And I look forward to it every year. I don't read a lot of annuals or literary magazines. I'm not like super up on that, but I do go for Noon every year. I wait for it to come out, and it never disappoints. So if you see it around anywhere, I know Powell's up in Portland, Oregon has it. You can buy it from, I guess, all of the regular book selling sources online, at least that I'm aware of. But if you just Google it, Noon Annual, you'll find their website. It'll direct you to where you can buy it. And I highly recommend you do so because, and it's not just books. It's always got like beautiful paintings, drawings. There's usually like an artist featured. They get the cover. You get all kinds of stuff on the inside from them. This particular artist I was not previously aware of, Phyllis Bramson. She's got some really beautiful stuff in here. Yeah, great art, great literature. Combine them. It's Noon Annual. But invariably the problem arises from so much gold. What does one pick to read aloud on the internet to nobody, a few people? Hopefully a few people see this. And hopefully it motivates the purchasing and reading of Noon Annual. So I think I'm going to go a little out of order, actually. Because there's a couple authors I really like that only that have like one story in here. So I think I'm going to start with the single story ones. This first one is by Catherine Scanlon. You may be aware of her, and I hope you are. She wrote a really good book called Kick the Latch, which is her first novel. She also wrote one of my favorite contemporary story collections, The Dominant Animal. Yeah, I look forward to any new work from her. And I do go in order when I read the annual the first time anyway, and then I can circle back and read it in all sorts of sequences. Um, I really like this story a whole lot. This is La Pieta by Catherine Scanlon. Thank you all for being here. I would see her sometimes outside her apartment, or what I took to be her apartment, on the bad grass near the steps, smoking and speaking loudly to no one, it seemed, until you saw the ancient, desiccated dog standing near her feet or cradled in her arms. It looked to weigh only a pound or two and was sparsely tufted with beige hair that stuck out from its trembling body and obscured its face. She spoke to it in the aggressively chipper tone of the nursing home, of the young aides and relations who prod and chirp at the ailing and dying, telling them to cheer up. From what I could tell, the dog didn't hear anything the woman said and was insensible to her attentions. It seemed stranded in a mute, private world of pain. On occasion, they could be seated at the bistro together, the dog propped on a chair like a poorly preserved little mummy, wearing an ill-fitting sweater and a pearl necklace. Or on the lake path, where the woman bustled the dog along in a black stroller like the young mothers did with their infants. But unlike the squalling babies who were learning to ask for what they wanted, the dog endured the bumpy trip without protest or interest. The woman went often to the flower shop where, though she was small, she would position herself on the sidewalk out front in such a way that the rest of us had to step off onto the dog-pissed dirt verge to get by. She had a hard, sharp little face, and she looked me in the eye when I passed. The look was demanding, confrontational. She expected me to stop, to say something, but I never did. I wore sunglasses and was glad to have that barrier between us. They weren't the only neighbors I noticed. There was the mayor and his golden retriever, the unhappy French couple and their dirty white poodles, the retired postman and his fat black pug. But the strange woman and her cadaverous dog occupied my thoughts more than the others did. I got a weird thrill when I saw them, like spotting an eccentric celebrity at the grocery store. One day when I walked up Ripley Street, the duo was on the steps of a stucco duplex ahead, several blocks from the apartment building where I thought they lived. The woman occupied the stoop with an easy, proprietary air, and the tips of the dog's stiff hair were lit up like dry grass seed heads in the sun. There was something saintly in its posture of resigned suffering. Where it was bald, the dog's tender pink skin showed. The woman was speaking. She projected her voice like a professional. On my own birthday, she said, I sent my mother a card to thank her for birthing me. But she didn't send me a card. She didn't send a gift. She didn't even call. The woman and I were a handshake apart, and she stared at my face, waiting for a response. But I was thinking about the little dog. Was she the woman's surrogate self to dote on, to nurse? Or was she her toothless mother dummy to pity and push around? Was she both? I didn't see them again for the remainder of the spring, though I continued to walk all my regular routes. After that, I endured a period of personal hardship and general bad luck, during which I thought of little other than the problems that continued to pile up in front of me like uncollected garbage. It was a shock then, when I passed them one afternoon toward the end of summer in the alley behind the singing violin. During my time of misfortune, I'd acquired the habit of looking at the ground while I walked, and I might have gone by, oblivious. It's easy to drag oneself blind through life. But I looked up, and there they were. The woman was radiant, younger than I remembered her, and not at all pinched or suspicious. Her eyes were skyward, and she wore a sleeveless shirt that bared her glowing arms, bent in a cradle across her torso, within which the little dog lay limp, head hanging off to the side like a wet rag, a string mop, a game bird's carcass. She reminded me of that famous sculpture, O Mother, daughter of your Son, wherein the woman is made youthful and beautiful by grief. That was La Pieta by Catherine Scanlon. If you missed the intro. Let's see. I know there's another one. I think Kayla's only got one in this issue. Let's see. I should have bookmarked the pages, and I always say that. Okay, yeah. Yeah, she's only got one in this issue. This is Kayla Blatchley. And if she's got a collection, I'm not aware of it. And if she doesn't have a collection, I want there to be one. So just putting that out there into the world, because I really like her work whenever she publishes it in Noon. Yeah, I'd love to have a full-length story collection or something else from her. So if anyone's in contact with her, please tell her to publish a collection. That would be lovely. It's fun to get out the Noons and to like go through them, like and just read all of like a given author. But one volume, please. Anyhow, this is by Kayla Blatchley. It's called A Fucking Lesson. She would be lying on top of him and move her hands to his chest, spreading her fingers and palms as if she were spreading the wings of his rib cage, and he would stop her, bringing his hands to her wrists, and then he would stand up. One day, Alice, he would say, boom, straight to the moon. She didn't think he wanted to hit her, though she knew this was what the man on the television meant when he said boom and when he said pow. He had a way of looking at her in these moments and in others that was like he could do something. It had taken a long time with them as friends before he kissed her. There was maybe another girl, but he was also older. Years later, she saw him again around a fire at a friend's party for the winter solstice. It must have been 20 years. He was there with his wife and 2 children and didn't recognize her, but she recognized him. She made eye contact a few times, and after he kept nodding and looking away, she went up to him. Hey, she said. And then it was funny, and he introduced her to his family, and they talked about nothing and promised to keep in touch and didn't. But then he sent a letter to her parents' house. The letter was written on wide-lined notebook paper. The penmanship was stylish, careful, the pen ballpoint blue. When she first got the letter, she read every word out loud to her friend, and they laughed at him. The letter, maybe none of it, nothing of it, should have been written down. Now he is dead. She keeps it in one of her grandfather's old filing cabinets, olive green and with claws on the bottom to attach to another cabinet. In the cabinet, she has her social security card and bank statements, bills from the gas and electric and phone and internet and insurance, and even old checkbooks from when she had checks. Maybe she wants something from him still. She never did teach him a fucking lesson. That was a fucking lesson by Caleb Latchley. Let's see. Let's go back. Back. Let's see. What to do next? The eternal question when it comes to Noon Annual. Oh, okay, let's do this one. This was an author I was not previously aware of. The story is called The Swoon. It's by Belinda Paxton. I picked up my beer glass and put it against my eye and turned to look at the room through the golden fluid. Next to me, Harry was a bundle of rags. Anderson was a dark blur against the wall. Shadows unraveled in the corners and ran into Anderson like rats into a hole. The windows were not closed tightly, so the wind made a noise, and more shadows flew into the room. Or were they a cloud of midges? The darkness joined the shadows that were gathered around Anderson, and he grew, or the shadows around him grew and twisted and unfurled until they became a man who was young and limber and more beautiful than can be imagined. That was The Swoon by Belinda Paxton. Really enjoy that one. Really enjoy all of these. If I had more time, I could sit here and just read the whole thing cover to cover. Take a while. I want to read that one. Let's see. Nobody's here. I could do whatever I want. I could invent things. Okay. I'm going to do one more one-off story, and then I'm going to go into groups from certain authors who published multiple in this issue. But this one, this is She Tells Herself You Are Free to Go by Kim Chin-Kui. I've always been unclear on how to pronounce her last name. Another author I see most years in Noon and really enjoy. Unless I'm mixing her up with something else, and I don't know. But whenever I see her name, her story is always wonderful. Yeah, this is She Tells Herself You Are Free to Go. She tells herself you are free to go. To where? She's perhaps resourceful. Imagine a girl growing up using her fingertips, making patent leather shoes for those much more fortunate, baking cakes for others, learning how to make the frosting, decorating with colors, using the tube, the various instruments, her hands, happy anniversary, Happy birthday, happy confirmation. She thought of taking turpentine to the fallen leaves, watching them go whoosh, the buckthorn and the ivy, like the man who was trying to date her. He seemed innocent enough. She used to help her grandma seal the jars when canning. She has still, wait, or sorry, she still has her pickle recipes on her 3x5 cards. The handwriting is in blue. She made a lot of pickles with her grandma. She picked a lot of her pickles. Her mom and her grandma had problems. They had to burn down buildings. They had to dig a hole just to get rid of stuff. Today was unseasonably warm, and she spent most of the afternoon finally raking the layers of leaves that lay like quilts in her backyard. The underside of the layers was blackened, almost turning into dirt. As she raked, she hoped to provide breathing room for the things underneath, trying just to whistle. Love that ending. I love that ending so much. Such a beautiful line. Things underneath trying just to whistle. All right. And so we arrive at one of my very, very, very favorites, the great Nathan Dragon. Should check out his collection. The Champ is Here, from Cash for Gold. Man, I've been rereading it on a loop since it came out. It's just like one of my favorite collections right now. Every time I go through it, I find something more to appreciate about it. And yeah, I think it deserves the biggest audience it can find. But Nathan's in like every issue of Noon for years now, and his stuff just rules. So yeah, I'm just going to read a handful of his stories. This first one is called, I love this one. I think I'm going to try trying. I think I'm going to try trying to do what's necessary to be forever forgiven. Today is the last day I am going to be despicable. I am no longer a degenerate from here on out. Dear Lord, please help. I have had stress breath all year. I did save a turtle. I was driving down the hill and saw it in the middle of the street. I pulled the car over into the grass, and I was holding the turtle almost like I was holding a sandwich. Now I am invested in its safety and well-being. When I was carrying it to put it down in the grass, it stuck its head out of its shell and looked right at me. In the bedroom, back at home, the dog was sleeping like a person, using the pillow perfectly. That was I Think I'm Going to Try Trying by Nathan Dragon. Oh, look, it's another Nathan Dragon. This one's called For Those Who Look to Prophecy. A crow was walking around the neighbor's lawn carrying a square styrofoam lid in its beak. Vultures landed to the right and left of the crow, and they stretched their wings toward it. I can tell what's going on here. There's an X in the sky from where plane flights crossed. The X looks solid. There's just an air of something's up. My head's been hurting. I haven't been feeling well. I've been drinking a lot of tea to help. Ginger, turmeric, dandelion. I don't know if that's a sign of deterioration, drinking more tea than I ever have before. Is it weak to drink tea? Then there's the feeling that's like being in a passenger seat, driving steady along a hill that's blocking everything on the other side of it. Nothing in the sky above it, hill and sky, certain kinds of blankness, or driving along long rolling fields, grass swaying. I want to lie down in the middle of the scene. Ticks don't exist. Or I should run through it with the dog. Sunlight like bathwater, and we don't get tired. The dog and I went inside. I got a knock at the door, the side door, which opens out, and when I went to open it, it was slammed back in my face. But this something might not be anything bad. That was For Those Who Look to Prophecy by Nathan Dragon. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep reading Nathan Dragon. This one's called Good, right? I keep thinking though, did you take it? And, well, are you sure? And my wife said she didn't take anything because I can't ask anymore. I keep thinking, but it was for you. I was worried it came and she got it, opened it, and didn't like it, or it was wrong, so she tossed it. I've been waiting because I wanted to be good. I've been waiting to say, see, look, I can be good. To say, look what I got you, good, right? I hoped it was the right thing. I even saw the mailman come looping back around from the dead end, indicating that the mail delivery for my particular dead end street was complete for the day. Nothing else to be delivered to this street for the day, I thought. I didn't ask anything anymore, but I kept saying, wait till it comes. I've been looking at blank spaces on the walls, thinking about them, tapping and listening. Now she's sitting outside in the yard in the bathrobe. I almost didn't see her in it when she walked by to go out. It's late in the morning and really warming up. She's still wearing it. I did a double take, like I think she wanted me to. There's something about it, a new era feeling to it, seeing her sitting outside in her new bathrobe for the first time, like it feels like we really live here. But we've been here for years, though. She's sitting on one of those beige metal folding chairs. We have better chairs for sitting outside. She looks content, it looks like. Enough for me not to break her spell, saying, want me to get you one of the better chairs? I wish I had a roll of film to put in the camera. The kitchen door's open a crack because she said to leave it open. It's beautiful out. And I'm just looking at her. She is sitting in sunlight. She ought to get something more. A gold star. That was good, right? It was good. I don't mean to be lame. It just happens. I'm going to save the two longer ones from Nathan Dragon for another time because they're linked. They involve the same characters. And I don't want to shortchange it by reading just one or the other. And I do want to have time to include the most stories that I can. Let's see, where are you, Lucy? There she is. So this is Lucy Elvin. Man, just one of my favorites from Noon over the years. And she published a novel a few years ago called The Weak Spot. I really like that book a lot. Um, she's just got a great style and like such a compelling voice, and uh, I don't know. I love her work. She needs a collection too, really badly, because I'd love to just be able to pick up a book of her stories. I'm sure she's got another novel in the works too. Whatever she publishes next, I'm stoked on. But man, just the language. Excuse me. In all of these. That's the common theme, I think, across Noon. It doesn't matter what the stories are about so much, but the style is always so compelling, and in many cases odd and very distinctive. And I don't know, they're always stories I can just read over and over and over again and get something get something new out of each time. But anyway, this first one is called This Figure, This Drama, My Unreal Life by Lucy Elvin. This figure was standing at the mirror before the set of dark brown doors, the metal letterboxes, the marble staircase, and it seemed larger than my usual reflection. Then he opened his mouth to deploy a deep voice. I noticed his pupils like wells, my instinct to make myself scarce. He stood his hands through his hair so that he looked bushy, electrified. I wanted someone to run at him, waving their arms, and to make outraged noises until he would move. He curved a hand around my shoulder, then rested it on my chest. He didn't want to alarm me. He wanted me to know that while he was in my girlfriend's lobby, he had only gone up to use her bathroom after a drink, and that he was seeing someone else. He had an inviting manner, and his upper lip drew itself into a mound like mine. I didn't know how to look at him. I looked at the line of nails scaling the wall. It must happen all the time, he said. No, it actually doesn't, I replied. Upstairs in my girlfriend's bathroom, I wiped my hip, my leg, biting and combing the hairy flesh with the mouth of a flannel as I went, cocked my leg, wiped the length of my penis. My eyes in the mirror shivered. They ran and shuttled back as though I were watching the world go past out of a moving car. My wash finished, I stuck my foot into the gap by the door, pushed the door open, and left the room. The spot by the ironing board, by the radiator, the fire. I felt I came into spaces other people had left. In the living room, I moved the cushions on the wicker chair, sat, and clutched my head. I was wearing a long gray dressing gown. Oh wow, I fucked that up. I was wearing a long gray dressing gown and slippers, and in the dark window, hunched away from the light, I looked like a rounded thumb. My girlfriend was turning the pages of a newspaper supplement. Do you want to watch something, Brian? She said finally. Gave me a little kiss on the bone of my forehead. While we talked, I noticed I was slow and became blocked in my thoughts. She kept looking down and back, and I would crane sideways to hold her eye. She told me eye contact was important to me. I don't know what you want from me, she said. She said I looked hurt. I said I looked something else. She said her slipper was broken, and I moved my weight onto one leg, lifted the other foot, hooked my finger into the loop at my heel, pulled the shoe off the foot, and dropped it next to her. I know there are things I want to tell you, she said. Then she said her instinct was to be secretive. Every day, I wanted to tell her that I missed her every day. After that first sighting, I felt the bigger man all around me, hiding in the grass. A taxi I booked from the flat didn't come, so I called the company from my girlfriend's phone, then gave the pickup address. The lady on the other end sounded amused. There was a cab booked on my number, she said, under the name Orion. Orion? I said. As I waited up for my girlfriend one evening, I heard scratching around the keyhole. Then there was a long pause. I went into the bedroom. The scratching resumed, a more hollow insertion, and finally a turn. When she came in, she was still and quiet. I told myself I was going for a quick walk and pushed back my chair. Then, by the construction site beside her building, the bigger man walked toward me and passed. I was heckling him under my breath. On to the next, is it, Orion? I went back, roaming around her building for him. It was like I had within me a current that pulled against all the facts of my person. I sniffed every corner of the hall, circled the desk, scoped out the edges of the room, and looked into the waiting area before I took the stairs, which still allowed a broad view of the exit. Next, I sat on a chair in the lobby, my whole being pointed one way. Looking up, I saw the usual unfamiliar silhouettes in the stairwell. Legs not short enough, posture wrong. Then this figure, this drama, my unreal life, coming down. In the morning, as the bigger man and I talked, on the ground in the construction site, I thumbed sand through the fingers of one hand like water, then passed the damp dough from left to right. I made a mound before me, lowered my palm to flatten it, pinched a breast into shape. At intervals, I flicked my hand upward so I could see what there was left to do. After examining the work from different angles, I looked up, raised my arm, then took a swipe at my small Madonna. That was this figure, this drama, my unreal life, by Lucy Elvin. I just want to read all of these. All right. Now I'm torn. All right. We'll do this one. This is another one of the, it's still short, but like one of the longer Lucy Elvins. This one's Don't Stop Talking About Me. I think I'm going to leave it here for tonight. Seems like a good place to end it. Yeah, this is Don't Stop Talking About Me by Lucy Elvin. When I peeled the towel off my eyes, Lars was walking up the beach into the distance. I don't know why. I couldn't always read him. He did this sometimes. I took a shower when we arrived at his house, and by the time I came out, it was clear we were sharing a bottle of ouzo. Lars poured me one, adding water, then another. Before I'd finished my glass, he filled it up again. I looked at the liquid edging up to the brim. He said nothing. That's too much for me, I said. You take that one. I wasn't looking, he said, and he swapped the glasses. I dressed up for dinner in a black silk halter neck top and spent some time doing my makeup while he told me about his past, the way he'd married his first wife. Then there'd been someone else with whom he'd had two girls. Then there'd been his son's mum, from whom he'd become estranged when the boy was small. That was when he'd packed off to southern Greece, an area introduced to him by his friend Roman, recommended for its total peace. Here he'd met Diana, whom he described as giving him a new lease of life. Then he'd gone back to the house he'd built in the Scottish countryside, where he'd moved in with his son's mum again. After a few years, they'd realized it wasn't working, and he came back to Greece. It was rare that Lars told me about himself or his family, and it felt straightforward to listen. I put my arms around him. The sun through the doorway, through the window, was soft on the truck outside. When I showed Lars, he said nothing. I dropped my arms from his shoulders and ran a hand across my own body. We set off and arrived at the restaurant 1 minute early, as white signatures scrawled themselves on the sea. Lars looked at the wine list and said he loved Macon villages, which he would, I know that's French and I just butchered it. Macon village, I don't know. Macon villages. The fucking, I'm a Philistine. Lars looked at the wine list and said he loved Macon Village, which would cost half our vouchers combined. Then he also ordered himself a martini. I got the impression that when he decided to drink, it was an occasion for him. He would pull out all the stops and make a night of it. The waitress asked him, "Dry with a twist?" And he said, "Yes, dry." "With a twist?" she asked again. Lars, who was drinking his martini, indicated that I would try the bottle. The wine was fruity, not the kind Lars usually chooses, but I said, "Nice, very nice." The waitress poured me a glass, turned to Lars, said she'd come back later, and cast a glance my way. As we ate, Lars couldn't finish his sentences and was slurring. I supplied the missing words and held his earlobes with my fingers. I tried to introduce topics on which he could hold court. After dinner, in his house, he kept me out of the kitchen, from which I heard a clink clink. When he came back into the living room, he brought a glass filled with Coke. Then a thin smell broadened out in the air, like the shine of something stolen. Lying on the sofa, I moved my hand so that it was resting on my chest. Then I moved it back behind me. I took it in my other hand as I walked into the kitchen, into the bathroom, into the bedroom. I went to bed early, holding the two hands together, interlaced, and slept with my head beside them. In the morning, Lars had a bad stomach and he stayed in bed most of the day. I wasn't sure I'd be able to find peaches in the first week of May, but I drove off and soon enough the peaches had been secured. The peaches weren't overripe, and some wouldn't lose their pits when I cut them in half. I placed the hollowed halves in the bourbon and sugar on the stove, then returned to the more devoted, clingy pits, trying to prise them out without deforming the fruits. A few of the pits snapped apart when I tried to cut them out with my knife. The skins left a pink shock on the hot flesh when I pulled them off with my thumb and middle finger. When I'd removed all the skins, I poured some of the liquid into a bowl and boiled the rest down with more bourbon to make a thick syrup. I went to pick mint, but came back with basil, so I sent myself out again. Once I was done, I checked on Lars. The shutters were closed and the curtain fluttered a little into the room. In the middle of the bed was a crescent shape under a sheet. He didn't think he was able to move. Of the two of us, it always fell to me to broach embarrassing subjects, and I suggested he might be suffering from trapped wind. He grunted. When I left the room, I turned left toward the outdoor table and chose a chair with my back to the low wall that lined the street outside, wondering if we might have a problem, whether it was too late to cancel the barbecue. There I was, finally sitting down, drinking my signature cocktail, The weather was a bit gray and there was a cigar in the ashtray. I heard a cough at the garden gate. He can barely move, I told Roman. I said I had been unaware, and then he didn't know when to stop. I always felt so tense. Afterward, it was like the whole thing going too far hadn't happened. It was a relief to talk about it, I said, even to myself. We laughed. Lars emerged. Don't stop talking about me just because I'm here, he said, and he went back inside. When he came outside again, fully dressed, he said he thought I was right, that maybe it was trapped wind. I tried to get him to look at me, to touch me, but he was brittle and cold. I don't know why I reach for him half the time either. I have an image in my mind of a fuse tripping. For the entire barbecue, I was quiet. Roman was quiet, and Lars talked to Roman's girlfriend, who, Lars had already told me, was about to get dumped. But it was always that way with Roman, same as how, the next day, I could guarantee Lars would be chastened, affectionate, and that in a year he would sum me up to his next lease of life. He'd say that I hadn't liked telling people not to have what they wanted, that I'd drunk too much because of recent catastrophes of my own, that I was bad at endings because I wanted to keep the time alive, things like that. Lucy. That was Don't Stop Talking About Me by Lucy Elvin. Y'all, I'm going to leave it here for tonight. I'll probably read some more from this next week. In fact, I know I will read some more from this next week because Christine Scott has an excerpt from a novel in progress. And I can't wait to read it, but it is the longest. I think it's the longest piece in this issue. And I want to do it justice. I want to give it room to breathe. I want to be able to read it slow. So that one's going to happen next time. Probably, I would also guess, with the two stories from Nathan Dragon that share the same characters. They're longer stories, both. So, yeah, we'll see what next week brings. But that's my prediction anyway. Thank you all for being here tonight. If you missed the intro, I was reading from the 2025 issue of Noon Annual. Google it, Noon, Noon Annual. Go to their website. It'll direct you to where you can purchase it. If you're in Portland, Oregon, though, I know for sure they have it at Powell's because I've gotten it there before. But yeah, otherwise, that's all I got for tonight. Hope you all enjoyed it. Pick up Noon Annual, support the authors. They all deserve your attention. It's just wonderful work. I look forward to it every year. Anyway, until next time, bye y'all. Thank you.